The village of Kijiji sat between two gentle hills, where the wind carried gossip faster than it carried dust, and sometimes faster than the truth itself. And in that village lived a man named Mwashumbe. But hardly anyone called him that anymore. To most, he was Mdomo Moto, the man whose mouth never cooled. If there was silence, he filled it. If there was truth, he twisted it. And if there was nothing to say, he created something out of thin air and delivered it with the confidence of a chief making a decree. Children would whisper, "Hide your ears. Mdomo Moto is coming." The beginning of trouble. At first, his lies were small, playful, almost entertaining. At the bustling market, he would swagger in like a man with 10 cows and no debts. "Mama Akinyi," he would shout, spreading his arms wide as if greeting a long-lost queen. "Pack for me the best tomatoes, the freshest sukuma, and that fish. Yes, that one that still looks surprised to be dead." Mama Akinyi would squint. "And your money?" Mwashumbe would lean closer, lowering his voice dramatically. "Ah, my money. I left it with the chief. Important matters. You understand." Mama Akinyi would sigh, shaking her head. "You said that yesterday. And today it is still with the chief," he replied smoothly. Nearby vendors would snort with laughter. Tomorrow never came. To old Juma, his neighbor, Mwashumbe was even more creative. One morning he burst into Juma's compound, panting like a man who had outrun danger. "Juma! Disaster! Tragedy! Your goat has become a criminal." Juma blinked. "My goat?" "Yes." Mwashumbe cried. "It broke into my farm last night and ate everything. Maize. Millet. Even tried to chew my scarecrow." Old Juma, horrified, held his head. "That goat has never even crossed the fence." "This one crossed with ambition," Mwashumbe replied solemnly. Ashamed, Juma apologized and offered compensation. Meanwhile, behind Mwashumbe's hut, he stood happily harvesting his own crops, tossing maize into a basket and whistling. "Ah, Juma's goat is very hard-working these days." And when villagers lost their belongings, tools, baskets, even chickens, Mwashumbe would appear at the scene like a self-appointed disaster reporter. He would shake his head slowly. "It is the rain," he would say gravely. The rain came like a thief in the night. Someone would look up at the bright, cloudless sky. But it didn't rain. Mwashumbe would sigh deeply. "You were sleeping. It rained, spiritually. And somehow, strangely, his house kept filling up. More baskets. More tools. Even one very confused chicken that refused to stop staring at him. The elders take notice. The elders of Kijiji were patient men. But even patience has a limit. One evening, under the great baobab tree, they gathered. Faces serious. Voices low. "This man's tongue," said Elder Baraza, "is longer than the river in flood. He lies as easily as he breathes," added another. "And if we do nothing," said Mzee Kondo, the oldest of them all, "soon even the truth will refuse to live in this village." So they sent for Mwashumbe. He arrived, smiling. "Ah, my fathers. If this is about the missing chickens, I also heard about it. Very unfortunate. Very emotional chickens." The elders stared at him in silence. "Mwashumbe," Mzee Kondo said firmly, "your lies have crossed the line." Mwashumbe placed his hand dramatically on his chest. "Lie? Me? I am the most honest man in Kijiji. Even my shadow trusts me." A child in the crowd whispered. "Even his shadow follows him out of fear." The moment the words left his mouth, something shifted. At first, Mwashumbe blinked. Then his lips twitched. Then, his tongue began to stretch. Just a little. Then more. Then suddenly. His mouth burst open as his tongue swelled like rising dough. Villagers screamed. One woman dropped her basket and ran. A man fainted dramatically, even though nothing had touched him. Mwashumbe clutched his face, stumbling in circles. His tongue grew longer, thicker, heavier, until it hung out like a stubborn piece of meat refusing to go back inside. A small boy pointed and laughed. His mouth has finally told the truth. Even a goat nearby took one look and bolted, bleeding in terror. The elders stood firm. Mzee Kondo raised his staff. From this day forward, he declared, voice echoing. Every lie you speak will betray you. Your tongue will grow, your pain will rise, and your voice will vanish. Until you seek forgiveness. Mwashumbe dropped to his knees, drooling helplessly. He tried to speak. Mmbbbh. Nothing. Finally, with tears in his eyes, he bowed his head and mumbled an apology. Instantly. Whoop. His tongue snapped back into place. The crowd gasped. Then laughed. Loudly. One man shouted. His mouth now has a police officer inside. Lesson learned. For 3 days. Mwashumbe was silent. Peaceful. Almost suspiciously normal. People even checked if he was sick. But on the 4th day. Hunger came. And hunger does not respect curses. At the market, he stared at food like a man seeing heaven. Mama Akinyi, he said cautiously. She folded her arms. No money, no food. He hesitated. Sweat formed. His mind battled his mouth. Then. My money is coming, the chief is bringing it. Silence. Then. His tongue exploded outward again. This time, it knocked over a pile of tomatoes. A chicken jumped onto a table. A woman screamed. Not again. Mwashumbe staggered blindly, his tongue swinging like a heavy rope. He tripped over a sack of onions and landed flat on his back. The entire market burst into laughter. Even Mama Akinyi laughed so hard she had to sit down. After painfully scratching, sorry, in the dirt. His tongue shrank again. Mama Akinyi wiped tears of laughter. You will die because of your own mouth, she said. Still, Mwashumbe continued. Even after the curse, even after the shame. Even after becoming the village's walking joke. To Juma again, one lazy afternoon, he leaned on the fence and sighed dramatically. Juma, your goat has returned. It came in the night like a thief. Ate my crops again. Even greeted me before leaving. Juma narrowed his eyes. My goat is tied to my leg. Mwashumbe froze for half a second, then committed. It untied itself. Silence. Then. His tongue burst out again, thick and heavy, knocking against his chin like a stubborn log. Juma folded his arms. This goat of mine is very intelligent. Next time I will send it to school. To the villagers gathered near the well, he announced loudly. The floods came last night. Everything gone. I saw water carrying houses like boats. A woman blinked slowly. But. I was awake all night. There was no rain. Mwashumbe opened his mouth to explain. The women burst into laughter as his tongue flopped out again, nearly dipping into the water bucket. One old woman shook her head. Even the rain refuses to cooperate with your lies. Each time, the same punishment. Each time, the same embarrassment. Each time, forced apologies scratched in dirt, whispered through tears, or gestured wildly with both hands. Children began following him around just to wait for it. Say something, they would chant. No, no, today I am quiet, he would insist. Just one lie. I said I am. MMPH. And the children would scatter in delight. But pride, pride is a stubborn guest. It does not leave easily. And inside Mwashumbe, pride whispered. You are clever. You are special. You just need a bigger story. And that was the beginning of the end. Her name was Amina. The kind of beauty that made conversations pause and birds reconsider their singing. Graceful in movement. Gentle in speech. Respected by all. Even Mwashumbe, for once, felt small in her presence. He saw her one morning at the river, kneeling as she fetched water, sunlight dancing on the surface like tiny spirits. And for the first time, his lies were not about food or escape. They were about importance. What if, he thought, staring at his reflection beside hers, I become someone people look up to? So he straightened himself, cleared his throat, and approached her with unusual seriousness. Amina, he said softly, as if carrying a secret too heavy for ordinary words. I bring a message. She turned, curious. A message? He lowered his voice. The prince has seen you. Her hands froze over the water pot. The prince? Mwashumbe nodded slowly, carefully, like a man delivering sacred news. He has chosen you, as his bride. Amina's breath caught. The prince chose me. He spoke highly of your beauty, Mwashumbe continued, now fully immersed in his own lie. He will come soon. Prepare yourself. This time. The curse did not strike. No swelling. No pain. No warning. And that silence gave him confidence. The lie grows legs. By midday, Amina had told her mother. By afternoon, her mother had told the neighbors. By evening, the entire village knew. The prince is coming. Amina will be a queen. Even the chickens seemed to walk with more pride. Preparations began immediately. Women gathered to cook, huge pots of stew bubbling, spices filling the air. Men slaughtered goats, arguing loudly about who had the fattest one. Children ran around shouting. I will see the prince first. No, I will sit on his horse. One old man even dusted off a torn robe and announced. I must look important. The prince may appoint me something. And Mwashumbe? He stood in the middle of it all. Admired. Praised. Thanked. Without you, we would not know. You have brought honor to this village. For the first time in his life. He was not being laughed at. He was being celebrated. And oh, how he loved it. The celebration. The day arrived. Drums thundered through Kijiji. Women danced in circles, their laughter rising like music. Food lined long tables, meat, maize, fruits, more than the village had seen in months. Amina was dressed beautiful, glowing with hope. People kept glancing at the road. Where is the prince? He must be close. Maybe he is arriving with a grand procession. Mwashumbe stood tall, nodding confidently. He is coming, he assured them. But inside, a small voice whispered. Run. A child, sitting on his father's shoulders, stared at Mwashumbe. Why is his mouth shaking? Another child pointed. Look. Look. Mwashumbe froze. That feeling. That terrible, familiar feeling. A stretch. A pressure. A tightening in his jaw. No, not now, please. He tried to smile. But his lips trembled. MMPH, no. And then. MMPPPPH. His tongue exploded outward, larger than ever before. It shot out like a flag in a storm, knocking over a plate of food and nearly slapping a drummer mid-beat. The drum fell silent with a sad thud. The dancers froze mid-step. One woman fainted directly into a pot of stew. Silence. Heavy. Painful. Unavoidable. The truth had arrived. The mob awakens. First came whispers. He lied. Then louder. He lied. Then shouting. To all of us. To her. Amina stepped back, her face crumbling. You lied to me. Mwashumbe tried to speak. But his own tongue betrayed him, hanging out like a guilty confession. Anger exploded. Firewood was gathered. Flames were lit. Burn him. He has shamed the village. He has eaten our food with lies. Even the calmest villagers now burned with fury. Mwashumbe collapsed, shaking, tears streaming, his massive tongue pressing into the dirt. Just as the fire roared higher. Stop. The voice cut through everything. Mzee Kondo stepped forward. Slow. Calm. Unshaken. The crowd parted. We do not destroy foolish men, he said quietly. We correct them. He pointed his staff at Mwashumbe. You will pay for every lie. The price of lies. The list was called out. The maize and millet. The stolen belongings. The market debts. The animals. The broken trust. And finally, the cost of this entire celebration. The villagers murmured in agreement. Mwashumbe looked at the crowd. At the food. At the fire. At Amina's broken expression. And for the first time in his life, he truly felt the weight of his words. I cannot pay, he whispered weakly. Unexpected mercy. The crowd grew restless. But Mzee Kondo raised his hand. I will pay. Silence fell like a blanket. I will settle his debts, the elder said. But he will work for me. Every day. Every season. Until the debt is cleared. Mwashumbe looked up, stunned. Why, his eyes seemed to ask. Mzee Kondo met his gaze. Because a man who learns truth, is more valuable than a man we burn. From that day on, Mwashumbe worked. Hard. Before sunrise, he was in the fields. Plowing. Digging. Sweating. Sometimes he would open his mouth to speak. Then pause. Think. And say carefully. Let me make sure, that is true. The villagers noticed. Children still teased him. Tell us a lie. He would shake his head quickly. No. My tongue has retirement plans. One day, Mama Akinyi handed him food. For free, she said. He blinked. Why? Because today, you told the truth without fear. Slowly, trust returned. Not fully. Not immediately. But enough. And Mwashumbe? He became quieter. Wiser. Careful. Because he knew now. A lie may bring laughter. A lie may bring advantage. A lie may even bring celebration. But in the end, it always comes back. Bigger. Heavier. Impossible to hide. And in Kijiji, when someone begins to exaggerate a story, people still laugh and say, careful, or your tongue might grow before your story finishes.